I don't have a problem with people joking about migrants or going into dark places with comedy. I don't have an issue there. The key word is comedy. If it's funny, it's fine. I don't know where the joke is here. Now, Ricky Gervais is someone that I've admired for well over 20 years. When he first came out in the early 2000s, when he teamed up with Stephen Merchant to bring out The Office, one of the most groundbreaking TV comedy shows of all time, the most perfect examination of mundane British working life. He really brought these characters that everyone that's had a mundane job in Britain has worked with. And I even think the guys sort of outdone themselves when they brought out Extras afterwards, which was another fantastic show that just examined the highs and lows of celebrity life in the mid 2000s, where Britain was just pumped full of reality, celebrity shows. Everyone wanted to be on Big Brother or I'm a Celebrity, and it was a perfect examination of this world. The guys done a few shows, but then they went their separate ways afterwards. Ricky Gervais brought out Derek and Afterlife, which on their own I think are great standout shows. What I loved about these two shows is they both dive into topics that not many people want to get into, especially in a comedy show. Derek would talk about issues of autism and alcoholism and even the plight of trying to run a care home in 2010 austerity Britain. Afterlife deals with the topic of death of a loved one, and you know, you can tell by comments feeds and Twitter posts that so many people that are dealing with loss have really taken benefit from this show that Ricky Gervais has produced. Another show that's grown in popularity is their XFM radio show that they've done in the early 2000s with Carl Pilkington, Stephen Merchant, Ricky Gervais, and people still watch this in their thousands every single day on YouTube, and you can see from the comments that this show helps them with their depression, with feelings of anxiety. And the main reason for this, and the main reason that I love putting on this show if I've had a stressful day, I've listened to every episode, I used to listen to it when I had a mundane, depressing night shift job, is the fact that it's non-political. It's just silly, and you know, people can get away from the stresses of life, of politics and everything that's going on in the world, and just put on an hour of XFM silliness. And this is what Ricky Gervais always used to do quite well with all his shows. He stayed away from politics. He kept politically neutral, because as soon as you start doing that, you take away the escapism that you get through his comedy, and also you just divide the room straight away. His first three stand-up comedy shows were absolutely fantastic. Animals, Science, Politics. And even his third show was called Politics, but he wasn't political. This was the difference. He'd talk about political figures, but he wouldn't give over his political persuasions or try and persuade the audience of a certain political view. They were fantastic stand-up shows. Now, I used to go and see Ricky every year. Every single time he'd always come to Brighton on his tours, I'd always go and see his live show. But the last couple of years I haven't bothered, because I've just felt there's just been a massive decline in quality. And for me personally, I just don't like it when he inserts political points into his show. You may like it, that's great, but for me personally, I don't like it. And every year he seems to get himself in hot water with a specific joke that he's brought out. I'm sure it's all a part of the promotion to get people watching. Of course it is. But it's all over social media at the moment, this joke about migrants. And let's watch the clip.
Well, I am woke now, and I can prove it. Here you go. I love illegal immigrants. Yeah, sue me now. Sometimes I go down to Dover for the day, right? And I look out, right? I look for a boat, and I see a dinghy with about 60 of them, and I go over here, like, right? And I pull them into shore, and I go, women and children first. They go, there are no women and children. Just you lads, is it? Just come on, lads. Come on, lads. If I go down there one day and there's no boat, I am absolutely fucking gutted. I just sort of wander into town, and I stand by the traffic lights and I wait for a big lorry to pull up, right? And I look underneath, and there's a lad sort of clutching like that. And I go, where you headed? And he goes, Gary Lineker's house. I go, it's just down there.
Now, first of all, I want to tell you where I sit on this offence in comedy thing. I love stand-up comedy. I also love stand-up comedy when it goes to dark places. I love the sanctity of the comedy show where you can have an hour, we're all together, we can joke about things that maybe we wouldn't just say out in the street. I love that. Louis C.K. said it best when he said, I like taking people to an area in their minds or in their culture that they're afraid of and then getting them to laugh. And I completely agree. It's amazing to laugh in areas that you're scared of and subjects that you're scared of and taboo subjects. There's nothing better. But this is the problem that I have with Ricky's joke. I just don't understand where the humour is, or where the joke is, or what part of that is actually funny. Now, I've watched hours upon hours of Ricky Gervais's stand-up comedy. I completely understand his irony, the fact that he's playing a heightened version of himself, a heightened, arrogant version of himself, a character. He's playing a character on stage. I completely understand it, and I've enjoyed and laughed at hours and hours of his comedy. But I just don't understand. This joke is not a joke. I don't know what part of it is funny. It's just a blanket statement about how basically not happy about immigrants being male, and they obviously like Gary Lineker because he had a migrant stay with him. I don't understand where the joke is. I don't have a problem with people joking about migrants or going into dark places with comedy. I don't have an issue there. The key word is comedy. If it's funny, it's fine. I don't know where the joke is here. He's just putting out a blank political statement about the fact that migrants are men. Now, anyone that dives into this topic will understand why the majority of migrants coming over are men, because the perilous journey that these migrants takes, they don't want to put their family through that. They don't want to kill their women and children, so they do it themselves to try and get jobs abroad, earn money, send it back home. And this goes back to my video about Andrew Doyle. Everyone seems to be getting blocked by this chap at the moment on Twitter. But he was interviewed saying that left-wing comedians are just coming out with blanket political statements, and instead of getting a laugh, they get a round of applause.
As long as I don't start going on stage and preaching in a humorless way.
Yeah.
See, that would be my red line. The risk, I think, is that people do that. You'll notice that a lot of the sort of identitarian leftist woke comedians stop being funny because they start substituting humor for sermons.
Yes.
And that you know exactly, I don't want to drop names, but you know exactly the type of comics I'm talking about. They stand up and they just say the fashionable opinions, and then they get a round of applause, usually, rather than a laugh.
Yes.
Because people aren't laughing, which is an instinctive response.
Now, he's correct. Comedians are doing this, but he wants to put all the blame on left-wing comedians when he's guilty of it himself.
What are you talking about? I'm just saying that the EU is a neoliberal, technocratic, undemocratic, unaccountable right-wing bloc that was set up by the super rich to protect the interests of the super rich, right? It's essentially a Thatcherite project.
And now it appears Ricky Gervais is guilty of it.
And I go, women and children first. They go, there are no women and children. Just you lads, is it? Just come on, lads. Come on, lads. And I go, where you headed? And he goes, Gary Lineker's house. I go, it's just down there.
And that's exactly what that is. It's not a joke. It's not funny. It's just a political statement to rouse the crowds that don't like the fact that migrants are male and don't like Gary Lineker. So he inserted that in to get a round of applause. And this is my main grievance. You're better than that, Ricky. You're better than that. You have produced some of the best comedy out there. Your first 3 stand-up comedies were great, fantastic. And why are you just throwing out political statements to get a round of applause from right-wing knobheads? I don't get it. I don't get it. You're better than this. You're much better than this. As always, please give me your comments. I'd love to hear your opinions on this topic. What do you think? Do you think the joke is offensive? Or I don't really care about that. I just think it's just bad. Just not funny. That's my main grievance. Please, if you enjoyed the video, click a like. And if you haven't subscribed, you can subscribe up top. There'll be another video. You can check that out as well. Till next time, take care.